Hey, friends out there. I just wanted to check in with you. Will Costello, brand ambassador for Nacido and Solomon Hills Estate Wines and the Miller family of Santa Maria and Paso Robles, California. Today, we wanted to jump on to do a tasting of our new vintage of 2018 Solomon Hills Chardonnay. And I have a really personal story regarding this specific wine, and not the one that's unlabeled, but the brand in general. So the very first vintage I ever had a chance to taste was the 2014 vintage. I, like many people, love white Burgundy and always did my best to try to find auxiliaries or proxies for it around the world. I've tasted some amazing examples of Chenin Blanc from South Africa that had the same kind of character to it. I've tasted some amazing wines from California, especially Chardonnay from cooler climates like Sonoma Coast, but I really wasn't so familiar when I had tried the 2014 vintage with Santa Maria Valley. Even in my studies, it had just come across as a sort of a name on a flashcard, and along with all of the other subregions, Santa Rita Hills, San Ynez Valley, Happy Canyon, Ballard Canyon, Los Olivos, those ones. And it hadn't been a real highlight in my brain of somewhere cool and cool climate, much like how Burgundy is. And the first time I had a chance to taste it was actually with the owner of the company, Nicholas Miller. And Nicholas had come into Twist restaurant in Las Vegas. It was at the Mandarin Oriental. And I was the sommelier there, and he brought along all of the wines to taste. And he poured some of the 2014 Solomon Hills Chardonnay. And I stuck my nose in it, and I went, whoa, this is insane. It literally was reductive and mineralic and precise in the exact same way that something like a really great bottle of PYCM, Pierre-Yves Cologne-Moret Burgundy was. And I was blown away because the price point, I mean, wholesale, I think it was something like 32 or 35 bucks. And it was exactly what I wanted from Burgundy. And so I thought I found a gem and a hidden diamond in the rough, right? And so I bought as much of it as I could. And for me, now learning that there was a wine nearby, I wanted to pour it for every single person. In Las Vegas, we have a ton of people who come in from all over the world, right? 44 million people. And we have people from Australia and people from China and people from Russia and Europe and everywhere that want to come in and drink local. And for me, when I thought about drinking local, I tended to think of it from the perspective of Sonoma and Napa, right? It's what people think of local. But if you look at the way Las Vegas is to where Santa Barbara is, it is a closer straight line as the crow flies to Santa Barbara from Las Vegas than it is to get to Sonoma and Napa. And so it's kind of interesting to think about when I went, wow, if people want to drink local, they really should drink Santa Barbara instead. And that was actually my first chance to taste this wine. So for me, getting to sell now a bunch of vintages of this and to taste through it is kind of neat. When our newest vintage comes out, it gives me an opportunity to see how different and how much the same the winemaking is or isn't. We don't have any of the 18 available yet. This is going to be on the website July 1. I got a bottle. Obviously, you can tell by the artwork. It was drawn by our team at the warehouse. We do, I think, have a couple more cases, like 13 cases or something of the Solomon Hills 17 at bnnacido.com in case you wanted to get some and taste along with these notes. One thing I wanted to pull up first, if we get a chance, I wanted to share with you a really cool photo that I found on Google Maps here. This is Solomon Hills, and this is the part of the vineyard where all of the Chardonnay comes from. And the Chardonnay itself is in one small little block, where at Nacido, further inland, we have a bunch of different blocks of Chardonnay. At Solomon Hills, it's just one giant block, mostly planted to high-numbered clones like 96, 97, 99 of Chardonnay in from UC Davis. But the really cool thing that I wanted to highlight was this little gap that comes through here. And if you know the region, it's very, very windy, and you get this kind of wind between 12 and 4 every day that blows through. But if you look down here, and I'm going to try to zoom in, and hopefully it doesn't go too bad, but this is all sand. And this is beach sand, the exact same kind of beach sand you would find about 10 miles to the west at the Guadalupe Dunes. This entire vineyard is beach sand. You could dig for 20 feet, never hit a rock, just like some of my favorite wines in the world. Anybody ever heard of Chateau Reyes? Well, Chateau Reyes is Grenache planted entirely on sandy soils in the southern Rhone Valley. It is one of the best versions of Grenache in the world, hands down. Things like Pantelleria from Sicily, entirely on sand, right? Things like McLaren Vale, Blewett Springs, Shiraz, and Grenache. I mean, honestly, one of the best wines out there is the High Sands Grenache from Yanguera on white sandy soils, just like you see there, which is super cool. What that does, though, is give the wines this really direct, precise minerality. It makes them taste more along the lines of stainless steel than they do have wood. And this wine itself, just like our Nacido Chardonnay, is 20% new French oak. It is fermented in the oak. It is finishes fermentation and goes through 100% malolactic in the oak as well, with a high amount of lees, very low sulfur, only about 60 parts per million in total sulfur. That's free and added sulfur at bottling. And this sees about 18 months in total. The one thing that I would highlight, though, about what makes our wine special is something that we call the rouleau technique. So this is rouleau, like the Great Burgundy house in Merceau. Just like Domaine Rouleau does, they actually ferment their wine starting in oak, and it moves back into stainless steel towards the end of the life. So what I generally say is, it's kind of like an oak barrel is a snorkel, right? It's like you're snorkeling underground. You see that the wine is breathing because of the pores in the oak, but it's not getting a full breath like it would if I came up and took a big breath, right? So it's getting that micro exchange of oxygen. Well, what happens when you take that out of the oak and you put it back into stainless steel? It's like somebody went and stuck their hand on top of the snorkel. The wine sort of has to hold its breath so that it can really come together. And what would happen if you held your breath for too long, right? You get lightheaded, you get a little ethereal, and that's what happens to our wines. Because that stainless steel, it tends to create this harmony of minerality, precision, and highlights the lifted tones, or reduction, as we like to call it, as opposed to the woody aromatic tones of the wine. So yeah, this is I'll stop sharing that. I just thought the sandy soils were so cool there. Looking at the wine, it definitely has a brighter golden color to it. I think there is some free sulfur still in there. This wine will actually get much lighter as it spends time in bottle, which is kind of cool, much like a lot of those great reductive burgundies. On the nose, really, really lifted and floral. It has like a green apple Jolly Rancher. It's pretty cool. It's slightly candied because of the sun that we get at Solomon Hills and in Santa Barbara, but you can definitely tell it has that underripe tone. And this is also a wine that if I didn't know what vintage it was, I would guess that it's probably pretty young. This wine has those banana skin, light kind of currently bottled fresh fermentation tones. The reason we're not releasing this until July is because we recognize that fresh bottling fermentation kind of thing will go down over time, and you're gonna end up with a wine that's a little more cohesive. That's why, great Burgundy, you wait for 2 or 3 years before you drink it so it can kind of come into its own. Definitely has pineapple tones to it, like the white core of pineapple. It also has this lightly spicy, almost green herbal tone. I always think of the wines coming from this green tea. It's for sure growing through here, and less wood. It's more towards like the Chablis style compared to something like Côte de Beaune. This is more Chablis. Let me take a sip of a wine. In your mouth, starts watering like that. That is entirely because of the acid. I actually looked up the numbers this morning on this. For those of you wine nerds out there who know anything about wine and pH numbers, there are very few California Chardonnays that have this pH, which is just refreshing, bright, like lime zest, zippy pineapple kind of core. I want another sip because it's so good. This comes in one of our smaller vineyards. Nacido is almost 10 times the size. And so Solomon Hills, we only made 363 6-packs of this year, which is what, like 181 cases of wine. So minuscule. Again, I'd say it's along the lines of those best top Grand Crus that you'll ever get into. Want to see if anybody has any questions on Facebook so I can see if there's Anybody saying anything? Not yet. Well, I would say that you can post your questions in the comment section. I'm very happy to answer any of those questions that you like. Again, this is a wine that is going to be released in July, but hopefully, if you'd like to have a taste, you can get some from biennacido.com, biennacido.com, and the 17 vintage, which is that bad boy, is still available. Today's Hawaiian shirt is a traditional rain spooner. If you know the rain spooner shirts, they look like they're kind of faded on the outside, but are bright and colorful on the inside. A traditional Hawaiian shirt. They usually don't have buttons that go all the way down. This is a 3-button. Love the shirt. It's just super airy. It's starting to get warm out here in Las Vegas, and good weather for Chardonnay drinking. Thanks for joining today.